All right, everyone, it's 2 p.m. and we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm Christy. I am a client success specialist with Tax 990. And today we're going to start our webinar about how nonprofits can protect against fraud and cybersecurity risk. But before we begin, just a little house cleaning. This presentation will be recorded and available at Tax 990 after the webinar. If you have any questions, we ask that you hold them until the end or add them to the chat capability in the webinar window that you have, and they'll be addressed at the end of the webinar or after the webinar. Please note, we are not tax advisors, nor are we the IRS, and we will not be giving specific tax advice or any advice on your specific organization status. How nonprofits can protect against fraud and cyber risk. Nonprofit organizations, despite their crucial role in society, are uniquely susceptible to fraud and cyber attacks. They're reliant on public trust and often limited resources for robust oversight makes them prime targets. These very attributes make nonprofit missions so critical, such as their focus and their reliance on public trust. It also makes them vulnerable to fraud. This vulnerability can lead to diverted resources, damaged donor confidence, and tarnished reputations. So what's on the agenda for today? Today we're going to discuss what is fraud, ways to prevent fraud, and what to do when fraud happens. So what is fraud? Fraud is the intentional act of deception carried out to gain an unfair or unlawful advantage, typically involving money, property, or services. Fraud in nonprofits, key statistics. The general fraud risk, according to the Association of Certified Fraud Examiners 2024 report to the nations, report that there is a median loss of fraud in nonprofits less than $76,000 per case. 29% of nonprofit fraud cases involve losses over $100,000. And 10% of all occupational fraud cases occur in nonprofit sectors, despite their smaller share of the overall economy. The most common types of fraud in nonprofits. While there are more areas affected, these are the most common eternally. Asset misappropriation accounts for about 86%. This can include, but not limited to, theft of cash, checks, or physical goods. Corruption counts for about 39% and includes conflict of interest, kickbacks, or bribery. And financial statement fraud accounts for about 9%, often tied to grant donors or donors reporting. Cyber attacks on nonprofits. According to the Nonprofit Technology Enterprise Network in 2023, more than 50% of nonprofits report experiencing a cyber attack or a data breach in the last 2 years. Ransomware attacks are malicious software, malware, that encrypts the victim's data or locks them out of their system. Then the attacker demands a ransom, usually in cryptocurrency, in exchange for restoring access, which has increased by 47% year over year, according to the Cyber Peace Institute 23 report. Only 26% of nonprofits have a cybersecurity policy in place, reported by the Nonprofit Technology Enterprise Network of 2023. Email phishing attacks. Attackers trick individuals into revealing sensitive information or downloading malware or giving unauthorized access, typically through deceptive emails, which are the #1 cyber threat for nonprofits, often targeting donation systems or donor data. Why fraud matters. why fraud prevention matters. Protects financial resources. Fraud drains valuable funds that could otherwise support your mission or business goals. Not counting the money stolen or misused, money is spent on man-hours to either find or fight the fraud. Even legal fees or hiring of a CPA or for other firms to help fight the fraud. This is all money that could be going to grants or other organizational missions. Even small losses can significantly impact smaller organizations. Preserve the reputation and trust. Once stakeholders or donors, customers, or even the public lose trust, it's difficult and most times costly to rebuild. Reputational damage often leads to decreased support, lost opportunities, scrutiny, and could even end with the nonprofit folding. It helps promote ethical culture. Prevention mechanisms signal that ethical conduct is non-negotiable. Employees are more likely to behave with integrity when accountability is built into your system. Have a zero policy in place that will deter employees from malicious behavior. Fraud prevention helps reduce legal and regulatory risk. Fraud can lead to investigation, penalties, or even criminal charges. Regulatory agencies often require robust internal controls, and failing to implement them can lead to violations. Early detection saves time and money. Prevention and early detection are far less costly than dealing with the aftermath. Investigations, legal fees, and lost funding can add up quickly. It also helps support and sustain substantial growth. Organizations with strong fraud prevention are better positioned to grow safely. Investors and donors and partners feel more confident in sustainable operations. Overview of fraud and cyber risk protection key focus areas. Governance and internal controls. Have clear policies and procedures for financial transactions. Segregation of duties to prevent unauthorized access or misuse means less likely of internal fraud. Delegate these tasks. Don't allow one employee to have all the power per se. Regular audits and risk assessments in place for your organization. Financial oversight. Have in place real-time transaction monitoring and reconciliations, budget to actual comparisons and variance reviews. Have a fraud hotline or a whistleblower mechanisms in place. Have cybersecurity measures. Ensure that endpoint protection and multi-factor authentications are in place. Perform regular software updates and vulnerability patches, and have network segmentations and secure cloud storage. Staff training and awareness. Ongoing education on fraud indicators and phishing schemes. A lot of nonprofits have older employees who are less likely to understand or know about phishing schemes. Having training to make them aware is extremely important. Social engineering awareness. Business email compromises. So making them aware of this will help you prevent fraud. And then have in place clear incident reporting protocols. Incident response and recovery plan. Documented incidents response plans, an IRP for short. Backup and disaster recovery processes. And then coordination with legal and IT and communication teams. Have a third-party risk management in place who will do vendor due diligence and background checks. Check out everyone you do business with and ensure that they have contractual protection and cybersecurity requirements in place. And then continuously monitor these third parties' access. Regulatory and compliance alignment. Adhere to frameworks like the National Institute of Standards and Technology, internal organizations for standardizations and payment credit card industry data secure standards, and HIPAA. Compliance with the Internal Revenue Service and Securities and Exchange Commission, the General Data Protection Regulations, and other relevant bodies. It is very important to adhere to these steps and regulations that are put in place by these organizations is to protect you. Yes, they can be annoying, but they're there to protect not only themselves, but your organization as well. Strengthen internal financial controls. Simple structural changes can drastically reduce the opportunities for frauds. Segregation of duties. Separate responsibilities for authorization, record keeping, and asset custody. This prevents one person from having full control over a financial transaction. Have in place dual authorization, which requires 2 approvals for payments, especially when updating payment information or wire transfer in large purchases. This adds a second layer of accountability. Perform regular reconciliations. Frequent bank and account reconciliations by someone independent of the transactions. This will quickly help flag discrepancies or unauthorized activities. Access controls. Organizations should limit financial system access based on a job roles and need-to-know basis. Disable access immediately when employees leave or change roles. Also change passwords and update contact information with vendors immediately. Perform surprise audits or reviews. Conduct unannounced internal reviews of financial records and encourage continuous compliance and encourages continuous compliance and discourages fraudulent behavior. Have a policy transparency. Have clearly written policies for expense reimbursements and purchases and travel. This makes expectations clear and enforceable. Again, have a zero tolerance for policy violations and illegal activities. Ensure a strong financial oversight. Boards must take an active role. Fraud often goes undetected due to passive oversight. Active board engagement. Review and question financial reports at each meeting. Don't just approve, ask why, ask how, and look for trends or anomalies. Finance and audit committees. Establish a dedicated finance and audit committee with financial expertise. Task them with deeper reviews of the budget and audits and internal controls. Include email regulations and policies on how to handle updates made via email. Timely and transparent reporting. Require a monthly or quarterly financial statement with variance explanations. Assist on transparency for restricted funds and large expenditures and reserves. Independent audits and reviews. Support external audits and manage letter reviews when possible, at least once a year. Quarterly is better. Follow up on these audit findings with concrete actions in place. Encourage whistleblower reporting. Implement and enforce a confidential reporting mechanism. The board should receive periodic summaries of concerns or complaints so that they can address them accordingly. Have ongoing board education. Provide board members with training on reading financials and fraud risk and governance's best practice. And an informed board is far more effective in oversight. Ensure clear policies. Policies empower staff to do the right thing and create accountability. Written policies and procedures clearly document financial, operational, and ethical guidelines and have them easily accessible to all staff members and regularly updated. Don't have them in the file cabinet in HR. Have them out in either in the break room or posted where everyone can see them. Code of conduct and ethics sets high expectations for honest behavior, transparency, integrity. Should include consequences for violations and a clear reporting path. Expense and reimbursement policies. Defines what is allowable and requires supporting documentation. This helps reduce the abuse of credit cards, travel expenses, or even your petty cash that is available in the office. Technology and cybersecurity policies. This covers password management, data access, device use, and incidents reporting. This is critical for reducing exposure to phishing, ransomware, and insider threats. Conflict of interest policy. This requires disclosure of personal or financial interests that may interfere with the duties. Ensure objectivity in hiring, vendor selection, and board decisions. Have regular training and enforcement. Policies are only effective if the staff are trained and leadership models them. Consistent enforcement shows that accountability applies to everyone. Train staff and volunteers. People are your first line of defense. Ongoing training is essential. Have training on fraud awareness, education. Teach staff and volunteers how to recognize red flags such as unusual transactions, missing documents, behavioral changes in coworkers. This emphasizes the importance of speaking up when something seems off. Remember, the only bad question is an unasked question. Cybersecurity and phishing prevention. Train regularly on how to spot phishing emails, especially emails asking for updates to account details or payment information. Have safe password protection practice in place. Don't share passwords and don't store passwords on login, meaning when you go to log in into your email and then Google asks you, would you like for us to save your password? No. Have securing devices and networks. Use a VPN, which is a virtual private network, and require a two-factor authentication. And when you're training, use real-world examples and simulations to keep training practical. Orientation and annual refreshers. Include fraud prevention and ethics policies on your onboarding process. Then require an annual policy sign-off and refresher courses. Don't take for granted that Jane is going to remember on day 365 the same information she was handed on day 1. Then you're going to tailor this training by roles. Customize the training based on the level of access and responsibilities. Finance staff get deeper training on controls, while volunteers understand the basic ethical expectations. Empowerment and reporting. Ensure your staff know how to report concerns confidentially. Most people won't report in fear of being fired themselves. So ensure your staff that retaliation is not tolerated. A culture of transparency and safety encourages early intervention. Reduce cyber risk. Nonprofits must treat cybersecurity as seriously as banks and hospitals. You are a target. Limit access by roles. Only give users access they need to do their job. No more, no less. This helps contain the damage if an account is compromised. Backup data securely. Regularly backup data and test restoration procedures. Store backups offline or in secure cloud environments. And create an incident report plan. Know how you will respond if a breach happens. Who's involved? What's the communication plan? What are your recovery steps? And understand what's at risk. Donor data, employee records, financial information, email systems are all vulnerable. A breach can lead to financial loss, reputational damage, and legal consequences. Use multi-factor authentication. Require multi-factor authentication for all logins, especially emails, cloud platforms, and financial systems. It's a simple and effective way to block unauthorized access to devices, emails, or accounts. Keep your systems updated. Apply security patches and software updates regularly. Outdated systems are the top entry points for hackers. And again, train your staff to spot a phishing email. Most cyber attacks start with phishing emails, and you'll receive an email that changes the bank accounts by stating to update that for deposit information. Teach your staff to recognize suspicious links, fake sender addresses, and urgent language, like update now. Don't hesitate to pick up the phone and contact the vendor or the requester to verify the data that they want updated truly needs to be updated. Monitor and respond. Prevention is key, but response readiness can contain damage and reassures stakeholders. Ongoing monitoring. Use real-time alerts for suspicious financial and system activity. Regularly review bank and credit card transactions, access logs, and audit trails. Clear incidents response plan. Document who does what in your fraud or cyber incidents. Include communication chain, decision-making roles, and legal and regulatory reporting steps. And then test and update the plan. Don't just take for granted that it's in place and it's working. Just test it. Conduct tabletop exercises or drills at least annually, more if you can. Refine the plan based on the lessons learned and the new threats. Communicate transparency. Be ready to inform stockholders, staff, donors, partners quickly and accurately. Transparency helps rebuild trust and shows professionalism. Investigate promptly and thoroughly. Act fast to contain the threat and gather the facts. Involve legal counsel and IT experts, possible law enforcement. Don't wait. And then learn and improve. After an incident, conduct a postmortem, identify control gaps, and update policies and train staff to prevent the reoccurrence. Foster a culture of integrity. Culture eats policies for breakfast. Fraud thrives where silence is. So lead by example. Leadership must model ethical behavior in every action and decision. Integrity at the top creates accountability throughout the organization. It encourages open communication. Create a safe environment where staff and volunteers can ask questions and raise concerns. Make it clear that speaking up is a sign of strength and not disloyalty. Reinforce core values. Regularly communicate in your mission, vision, and organizational values. And it also ties decisions and behaviors back to those values in staff meetings and newsletters and training. Recognize ethical behavior. Publicly acknowledge the staff who do the right thing, even when it's difficult. This reinforces that integrity is valued and rewarded. Establish and promote whistleblower protection. Ensure employees and volunteers know how to report misconduct confidentially and enforce a strict no retaliation policy. Integrate ethics into the daily operations. Don't just treat ethics as a one-time training. Do it on hiring, onboarding, performance evaluations, and any decision-making process. So what do you do if you become a victim of fraud? You act immediately. Don't wait. It stops further loss. So freeze the bank accounts, suspend access to the affected system, cancel compromised credit cards, halt payments, and change your passwords. Secure data and access to prevent additional exposure. Document everything. Record what happened, the dates, transactions, communications, the people who were involved. Save emails, screenshots, invoices, and any other relevant information. Report internally. Inform your finance department, your leadership, or the board. Follow your internal fraud response policy and notify the authorities depending on the type of fraud. Law enforcement may need to be contacted to file a police report that may be required by your insurance. IRS for nonprofit and financial frauds. You can use the IRS Form 14039 Identity Theft Affidavit or Form 3949A Information Referral. Notify the FTC by going to reportfraud.ftc.gov. The FBI's IC3 for cybercrime and phishing at ic3.gov. Engage professionals. Contact a fraud investigator or forensic accountant or an IT security consultant to access the breach and mitigate further risk. Consult legal counsel to understand your liabilities or obligations and reporting requirements. Communicate transparency. If stakeholders, donors, customers, partners are affected, notify them immediately and clearly. Transparency builds trust, especially when paired with corrective action. Then review and strengthen your controls. Conduct a post-incident review. What failed? What can be improved? Update your internal controls. Retrain the staff on the findings and revise your policies accordingly. So in conclusion, fraud and cyber threats pose real risks to nonprofits, but they can be manageable. By implementing strong internal controls, fostering a culture of accountability, and staying proactive about digital security, organizations can protect their resources and their reputations. Safeguarding your assets is essential to safeguarding your mission. So Tax 990 has put a lot of work into providing you with the best resources that you can find on our website via our knowledge base. Form information, filing requirements can all be found on tax990.com. And you can also check out our YouTube channel at youtube.com/tax990. We also offer blogs and helpful step-by-step guides and instructions. If you're going filing with 990 series form or want to learn more about your filing requirements, you can visit our website at tax990.com. And at this time, we're going to have a small Q&A. So if you had questions and you put those in that chat, I will be reaching those now. So it looks like Tammy has a question. It says, what types of frauds affect nonprofits? Well, any type of fraud can affect a nonprofit. Most of the time, it's misuse of funds, payroll, fake expense, or procurement fraud. But mostly now, nonprofits are seeing the cybersecurity, where someone's getting an email saying that something needs to be changed. A bank account needs to be changed to a different account number. And instead of verifying this information, nonprofits are updating this information, and when they go to make those payments or if they are sending out those funds, sadly, those funds are going to the wrong account. Okay, it looks like Henry has a question. Why are nonprofits at risk? Nonprofits are at risk because of the limited oversight, the trust-based culture, and fewer internal controls, especially for smaller nonprofits. Smaller nonprofits are targets because they don't have the funds to put in place the larger security IT measures that a larger, like Goodwill, would. Okay, yeah. Let's see, it looks like Melissa has a question, and Melissa's question is, who commits these frauds? So fraud can be committed by anyone. Sometimes it's insiders, staff, and volunteers, or sadly, executives. But cyber attacks are people called bad actors, for lack of the modern day terminology. And as I said, they are common targets in organizations with low security for ease, meaning if they can trick you into doing their dirty work, that's what they're going to do. Looks like Owen is asking, what are the common cyber threats to nonprofits? So we had discussed phishing and ransomware, data breaches, and email scams. So anything that can be done via the web is a risk, and that's what today's webinar is making light of, what these risks could entail. It could be something like I had mentioned, trying to update the bank account information, or it could be as much as, hey, we need your Zelle account number. And unfortunately, once they get a hold of one information, they have access to everything. Okay, it looks like that is all the questions we have for today. So Tax 990 has experienced live support. We're available Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 12, and then again from 1 to 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time. We do close our offices for a company catered lunch from 12 to 1. But you can reach us at 704-839-2321. We also offer email support at tax990.com. And we do have live chat as well, and that's available on our website. Just click the X at the bottom left of your screen or that little bubble that says chat now. And thank you so much for joining us today. Visit tax990.com for more information on upcoming webinars. And I hope you guys have a great day. Again, thank you so much for joining me. Goodbye.